Have you ever woken up in the morning and thought to yourself, wow, I'd really love to open up a medieval tavern? Maybe you woken up and thought to yourself, I've always wanted a thief to come into my bar and steal a barrel. I don't know how he would do that, but he can do it. Maybe you've always wanted a comically weird one-person band playing to an entire bar of hundreds of people. Well, then this is the game for you. Welcome to Tavern Master. A game that at first I didn't know existed until a Steam sale came along. And so I decided it was time to run my own medieval inn bar. And it's a good thing I'm a YouTuber and not a bar owner, because I'm not exactly the best at it. Our bar adventure starts by choosing our difficulty: relaxed, normal, or hard. And because we're a masochist, we choose the hard version. We get a little tutorial at the beginning which just teaches us the basics. How to move around the camera, and we see that we're missing a whole ass wall. I can't imagine why I would buy a property missing a wall, but great start to our bar. It doesn't even come with a door or a window, so we go ahead and fix that, and go ahead and put some furniture down, because I don't think my people want to sit on the floor. We give them something to drink besides water, but for some reason get an empty barrel and refill it. And at this point we're spending so much of our money on beer, furniture, and staff that I have to hope I got this place for free, because otherwise I don't know how I'm running a profit. The game gives me a final tip, and a couple nuns and a really big dude comes right into the bar, where the big dude working at the bar serves him up some drinks, and the bartender waitress goes around to the whole 2 tables. But I'm able to unlock many different technologies through the research tree that this bar some reason has, including the final ones with even games. But right now, the only game we have to play is how to outdrink each other. So I go ahead and change my sign to reflect that. I think they'll get the message. Night falls on day 1, and oh my god, I'm in the red. I don't know how this bar is going to be profitable. This looks like my YouTube stat sheets. My sign saying I will gladly get people drunk at least brings one person in on this lovely sunny day, and he sits all by himself in the back. At this point I have more staff than actual customers, but thankfully a nun walks in, sits by herself while her friend sits in the back, and then leaves. I think it's great that the monk decided to drink beer and the woman next to him drank water. Meanwhile, a fantasy elf for some reason walks in, and I notice that my staff are just sitting around like NPCs, which I guess they are, to be fair. My sign clearly isn't doing much since I'm only getting 29 guests per day, and I think this elf lady is buying all the drinks in my bar. In fact, I think she's single-handedly keeping me in business. Thankfully, I get lemonade, or at least unlock the research tree, which is my first non-alcoholic drink that I can get. Day ends, and I do the exact opposite of day 1, and actually make some money, which is the opposite of my current YouTube stat sheets. But I only have 3 staff right now, and the different quests I get give me some extra research points. It's at this point I realize that I can actually customize the walls themselves, and get to work. Seeing if I can actually make this bar look like something beside made of sheetrock. I go ahead and put wood paneling on the outside and the inside, giving my bar a little bit of personality, and maybe that'll draw some customers to it, because nothing I'm doing right now seems to be working. I think about, maybe swapping out the top of the walls with different textures, but the stone actually looks pretty nice. Instead, I go ahead and swap out the floor textures, because I need a new floor. Thankfully, this doesn't cost me any money, but the walls do, so I decided to expand a little bit. I'm really glad that demolition doesn't cost money, otherwise this bar would never be able to be upgraded. And that's the wrong floor texture. So let me go ahead and fix that. In the research tree, I managed to unlock the kitchen, and so I go ahead and put down the items that are necessary, being a shelf, the table stand, and the crate. And I go ahead and put up some furniture and even some nice little curtains. And just to top it all off, I put a rug and a barrel of weapons, because nothing says a good bar like a barrel of weapons, I guess. I guess this lady is ill-prepared and didn't want to grab one of my weapons. And at this point, I go ahead and make sure I have excellent quality wax, because I don't want my bar to burn down. I guess that barrel of weapons must have really worked, because now suddenly I'm getting a fair bit of bar guests to the tavern. And in the top right, you can even see I'm getting 71 guests per day. Just, ignore the fact that I'm 118 gold in the red. The staff are actually doing their jobs instead of sitting around at the bar, which is a very nice change. And, it's kind of weird to be having old wizards come in, but whatever. I unlocked the takeout counter, which is just another extension of the kitchen, but I don't exactly have the money to do it, and one of my waitresses is shouting. So that's where we're at. This table alone, between these 4 people, is drinking up a storm, and it seems that this executioner and this one-eyed wizard is having a great time, unlike these two people who are just hanging around. The next day ends a little bit more profitable than the other day, which, just like my YouTube stats, that's all I can hope for. It's at this point that, I decided to expand the bar, and hey, I buy a lemonade barrel because I unlocked it, and I had the money to get it, so why not? I rearranged the bar a little bit, putting the water on the right, and the lemonade on the left. And for some reason the barrel comes empty, so I have to refill it. And with a 3% chance of fire, the good thing is we can use that water for drinking and not putting out the burning flames of the building. The next research slot tree that I want to unlock is special events. And I didn't know that the God of War himself wanted to drink here. I'm glad he's one of my 76 guests that are arriving today. My crate has almost no food left, and it unfortunately reminds me about that in the top left. But since I have negative 17 gold, there's not a whole lot I can do. But who knew you can schedule an event even though you're wildly bankrupt? I'm not sure what my chef is possibly getting out of that cabinet, but must be something. Thankfully I get enough gold eventually, and I'm able to finally afford some ingredients so my chef can go ahead and yell. It's just a never-ending cycle of having to replenish myself over the entire course of a day, but the good thing is, for some reason the lemonade seems to be my biggest hit at a medieval bar where everyone's supposed to get drunk. Don't get that, but hey, it's selling. So to celebrate my newfound profits, I go ahead and schedule a special event. This time being a regular party, the only event I can possibly get at this time. Now I have to say, I'm really glad these guys are coming in at 8 PM when I have no lemonade left, and literally everyone else is leaving. I mean, it's so bad even the bartender can't even put any more out. But the good thing is I'm actually profitable today, which is a surprise, so I refill the lemonade, and this one dude decides to sit in the back. I really hope he's alright. Does anyone know he knows that we're closed? He knows that, right? Well, that dude magically disappears, and I go ahead and look at other bars I can apparently unlock. But my god, do I not have the real estate to put any of this in there. But maybe I could put a musician's podium. I go ahead and tear down a few walls, and turns out that's all I would really need to go ahead and put down a few extra floor tiles, which I misplaced again somehow. And I go ahead and put an actual little kitchen staff area, because that's better than my chef just hanging out in the open and screaming across the bar. I look at putting a takeout counter near the kitchen, but it's kind of awkwardly placed, and I also don't know who runs it, if it's the chef or the waitresses. So I go ahead and slot that into the wall, and hope for a new day that's good. And speaking of slotting in, maybe you'd like to go ahead and slot yourself into the channel, and consider subscribing, and liking this video, alongside checking out all the other ones. I do a lot of different variety gaming on the channel, such as Minecraft, Skull and Bones, No Man's Sky, and everything in between. So, unlike my bar patrons who sometimes sit down and do nothing, you should do something here, and consider subscribing. It really helps me out, and it distracts me from my law school readings, which I could always use. At the start of the next day, I start in the negative, but the good thing is I actually stocked up on food and drinks beforehand. And making 3 gold per lemonade when I have 76 people coming in a day isn't too bad. Except for this lady who's crying for some reason. I go ahead and restock on all the wheat and fruit I can possibly get, and I claim a new floor tile. And this guy on the right seems really pumped to be here, which I'm really glad for. I can't imagine why. The kitchen staff area looks a little strange with half-high walls, so to help alleviate that, I go ahead and give him a raise, which also lets me upgrade him, so he makes more gold off the dinners. I never bothered to see where these guys are going. They're like disappearing into the castle, and the game doesn't want me to think too hard in it, and gives me my new stat sheets for the day. I go ahead and decide to hire out a musician, since it will get me more guests per day, and it'll have them be more patient. So the man himself arrives. Aw, look at him go. That's my dude right there. Somehow the event just starts and all guests have been served, which is strange because none of them have been served. I get my 200 gold for achieving that, even though I did nothing. And I actually figure out that this game has a mode that lets you walk into the bar as a patron. So I get to see a flashing 4 gold appear out of thin air, And I get to hang out with my dude at the front stage. He is rocking, he's a one-man band. He is rocking out. Back in the kitchen, the crate is actually stocked up with food, which is a pleasant change from being bankrupt. And for some reason, lemonade is still my most popular drink here, which I really don't get. The sign specifically says we're going to get you drunk, not, drunk on lemonade. The next day, I'm more profitable, and this time I actually go ahead and put up that takeout counter. The research tree, I have more additional options, such as kitchen decorations and ale, but I only have 3 waitresses, so probably not a good idea to expand too much. At the takeout counter, I'm now able to have customers approach the bar itself and order takeout from the stand without actually coming into the bar or taking up a seat. I can make a bunch of different dinner options, which unfortunately just means I'm going to need a packing table to make sure they can get their takeout. And the game reminds me I have no fire extinguisher, but I don't think the game updates me on the fact that I'm bankrupt, so I can't do anything about that. To help alleviate it, I go ahead and schedule another party since it was a free 200 gold for doing nothing. And the takeout counter has a whole 0 customers waiting for it. I decided to update the sign to let people know about the new installation. It is true. That is factually correct. And what do you know? I get my first customer as soon as I change the sign. I swear, the game must be reading this. The game continues to let me know there's no fire extinguisher, which is a little ominous. What's the game gonna do? But thankfully the game does nothing, and the day ends with another profit margin. But it's kind of strange. Anyone else realize I made 0 gold for 3 days straight? To help prevent the fact that my waitresses keep phasing through the wall to get to the packing table, I go ahead and put it right back outside the kitchen. And I fixed that issue of the weird half-high walls that are actually in the kitchen, because I don't think my chef wants to be in a makeshift prison in a bar. So I put together something a little more cozier and open, so he doesn't feel like he's in prison. And I actually expand the bar itself, making sure that I add proper lighting to the different tables and put the walls back even further, so that pretty soon I can add even more. At this point, I decided to experiment a little bit with the wall decorations, and then immediately put them back to what they used to be. My one-man army band arrives just in time to play for literally no one, or, just one dude who decided to walk in. Thankfully my one dude becomes many dudes and dudettes, and the chef is using his newfound freedom to cook in a more happy environment. It looks kind of weird having that giant back empty space that's completely dark, but I'm glad none of my patrons noticed or seem to care about it. The environment and atmosphere is actually pretty cozy, and my waitresses are going around and handing out the drinks, and more elves, wizards, and clones of each other keep appearing. Is that a short execution? Speaking of odd figures, one-eyed wizard has been sitting out here for like 20 minutes getting his order, and then he just walks away. He didn't even get his order. He was waiting until midnight. For the past 4 days now, I make 0 gold, and this time I make 506, which thankfully is a lot better. And I think it's good to end my current adventure here. I'm not exactly the most profitable Tavern Master, and I think I should just stick to YouTube. It's not profitable, but at least I'm good at it.